Hello and welcome, Reds around the world. This is the 100% United podcast. I'm your host, TC, and here's my co-host, Scott. Hi, mate.
Hello, mate.
We've had a couple of bad results as Manchester United fans in the last week or so. Today, we'll of course look back on Saturday's FA Cup exit at Wolves. We'll also be reviewing the Champions League draw. We have to stay positive, so come on, Scott, let's get this Wolves game out of the way so we can set the scene for the rest of the season and beyond. A bad night at Wolves, mate. No FA Cup for us this year. What happened there?
Well, just a poor night all round, to be honest with you. It was tough to watch, tough to react upon. But I'm still living off the high of Paris 10 days ago and live to fight another day, mate.
Yeah, it was all looking so good, wasn't it? It looked like our name was on the cup. City down at Swansea. Everything looking superb. It really did look like our name was on the cup. And then, unfortunately, Lady Luck smiled on City, an offside goal. And then, of course, the wheels came off at Wolves, and we find ourselves dumped out and giving City a free run to the FA Cup, really, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think they've already had pretty much a free run to get there, playing lower league opponents. And it's a shame. We've gone away to Arsenal, we've gone away to Chelsea, beat them both, and it's sort of all for nothing. But I'm immensely proud of the overall picture of where we are and how we stand. So we'll be all right, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have touched on it there. I was going to say the same thing. You know, you go and beat Arsenal, you go and beat Chelsea. And yeah, it does seem like it's sort of work wasted. But at the same time, we've still landed shots on those clubs. We've still shown that we're capable of going on such a run that we did. So I'd obviously rather beat those teams and go out later in the competition. It's just such a shame when you've gone to such big clubs and then you go to a team like Wolves, who, let's not mess around, they're showing some good form. They are moving up the table. They're a decent team. But really, after the form we've shown, we really should be going away and bringing back the victory there.
Yeah, well, let's not underestimate Wolves. I think that they're in seventh for a reason. They're you've got to say the best promoted team, maybe in Premier League history. I can't remember any promoted team being so high this far along in the season and playing such good football. They got a great manager. They brought in a couple of great players. But, knockout football and league football are both very different. And I think that we can take a huge lesson from the game today. And we've got a couple big European Cup games coming up. So I think if we were to, learn a few lessons from Saturday and take them into the next round of the Champions League, then it won't be for nothing,
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't play a cup team, so to speak, in inverted commas. It was a strong lineup that we put out there. Pretty much the strongest we could have put out, barring Romero in for De Gea in goal. So it was, it's not like Ollie went there and disrespected Wolves at all. We played our first team, so those players, yeah, they will pick up the experience, but at the same time, we had the strength to win there.
Yeah, I agree with you there. We did take a really strong team out, but a couple of players just coming back from injury. I thought against Arsenal last week that Matic didn't quite show he was match fit. And maybe this game under Herrera was a little bit under the same bracket. But it's just disappointing. But we go there again in a couple of weeks and we've got to show them what we did learn just from playing them and make it right. I think in the overall grand scheme of things, 3 points in the league could be more important than a quarter-final FA Cup win. And yeah, we just got to take any positive out of it that we can,
Yeah, I mean, obviously it wasn't a great performance, but we did get into the last 20 minutes at 0-0. So, it wasn't like we got caught with our pants down or anything like that. But what I will say, the first goal, I mean, it was cowboy stuff at the back there. I mean, the amount of chances we had to clear that ball and then for it to end up a shot in the box was bonkers stuff, really. I mean, there's no way that from out on the left there, the ball should have ended up in the net.
Yeah, but I think if we had conceded that goal 3.5 months ago when everything was going wrong, it would just be, of course we're going to concede a goal like that. I just think it just shows how far we've come with our expectations are back. It's sky high again. And the quality of football that we've been showing, more often than not these days, make a goal like that seem completely out of the blue. It was, of course, pretty tragic to concede a goal like that, especially. And as you say, it was a really pivotal time of the game, right? Like we were just maybe starting to get a bit of a foothold in it and show a little bit more of ourselves. And it was sort of a real hammer blow.
It was indeed. And I will say, I mean, Romero obviously had quite a good display leading up to that, made some very good saves. What I say is that was awful goalkeeping for that goal. There's no way you should get beaten from a man who's further out than the penalty spot. He's swivelling and it hasn't gone right. And it's gone past Romero, not that far to his right-hand side. I thought it was awful keeping Scott personally.
And I think that his colleague David De Gea has one of the best reactions time I've ever seen of a goalkeeper. And I think that when we're so used to watching him and his outrageous cat-like reflexes, that when something like that happens with the first goal, then we just think, well, Dave would have saved that every day of the week. But you're right, it was definitely something that was savable, and he should have reacted a lot quicker.
Yeah, and unfortunately it didn't end there, because 6 minutes later, they caught us on the break. Jota breaking through. And again, I'm going to place the blame on Romero. His feet were all over the place. You look at the stance he makes when he's making his dive. It's mad stuff. Again, awful goalkeeping, I have to say.
Yeah, you can't get beaten at your near post from there. I'm right in thinking that we had a corner, right? And it just it came out from a corner, and only Luke Shaw was back there. I think 1-0 down already in the cup, 15 minutes to go. You maybe got to have an extra man back there, because...
Well, they didn't have Ollie to run back and hack the man down like he did at Newcastle at Old Trafford that time. But, I don't mind us going for it 15 minutes to go. We did leave the back door open. I do love that about Ollie, that we are going to roll the dice. We are going to concede sometimes. We are going to try and outscore the other team. I don't blame him tactically there. I think we should have been going for it like we were. Just those goals. I mean, both of them, they could have been avoided, even with the pressure that we were putting on, and even with the lack of men at the back, in my opinion.
It's pretty much the same as the Arsenal game then, right? There's 2 goals that could have been very easily avoided, and here we are, we lose 2-0, and everything, it seems like with a lot of fans, all the hard work, all the great work that we've done in the last 2.5 months has gone straight down the pan, and it's back to the old I could do better, and it just winds me up, mate. We've lost a couple of games, and people forget how far we've come and how desperate we looked under the previous manager at times. And
I totally agree, Scott. And don't get me wrong, I am saying what I see. It was bad goalkeeping and bad defending for the first one, but the goalkeeping team run by Emilio Alvarez with De Gea, Romero, Grant, it's a superb team. They've been absolutely superb. De Gea's been amazing. Romero's been fantastic too. Let's not forget the UEFA Cup win. So I'm not going in on Romero. I'm just saying, on the day, it was poor goalkeeping. Overall, I totally agree, Scott. I've seen people saying, I could have managed the squad better than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer on Saturday, blah, 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 blah. And it's absolute crap. It really is. And you're right. People do forget where we've come from. Don't forget, on the 16th of December, we left Anfield with our tail between our legs, and things were looking awful. Yeah. Absolutely awful. And since the 19th of December, when Ollie took the wheel, we've had a mad, mad ride. And like I said to you on the phone the other day, Scott, this 3 months is the most I've enjoyed supporting United for years. Since the Fergie years, I would say that's true. This 3 months has just been magic. And for people to then look and say, oh, well, I could do better, I think it's a culture thing. I think it's modern football that it's so easy to get on a computer, get on a phone and give your opinion. Everyone thinks then their opinion is worth something. So I think it's a cultural thing, but yeah, I don't like it either.
Yeah, and I think that you just said a word right there that is exactly how I feel is magic, right? Ollie's brought the magic back to Old Trafford and made match day something we look forward to nowadays, instead of just thinking, God, I wonder what's going to go wrong this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, in the situation we now find ourselves in, it might long-term be a great thing, because now Ollie can look at these players. We had a couple of really bad results. The players will be hurting. And Ollie will be looking for the reaction. He'll be looking around the dressing room saying, are you a United player? Are you a United player? How are you going to react to this? Because this is what a United player is all about. We do lose sometimes, unfortunately. I wish we didn't, but we do. And it's how we react and how quickly we get over those bad results and move on that makes us United. That's what keeps us at the top. So Ollie will be looking around. He knows what it takes to make a Manchester United player. And I would say these last couple of games is probably going to make his job in the summer a little bit easier.
Yeah, I'd vouch for that as well. You hear all these secondary opinions coming in, and you just think, did people expect that we were just never ever going to lose again, right? That this was going to be just the norm of going and winning and putting in great performances, and just, you put a little bit of blame on Romero for the goals he put in, and I think that everything's a bit of a learning curve, right? And this is the biggest job that Ole Solskjaer's had in his managerial career. And maybe there'll be a couple of things that he'll do differently in the future, like not rush players back from injury. we said last week, if you had said we were going to have the first 2.5 months that we would, and we would lose away at Arsenal 2-0, would you still take that?
Every day of the week.
And I think that if you would have asked me the same question today and we would have lost at Wolves, I would still have to say every single day of the week. So
Yeah, and you touched on something there as well, Scott. I mean, we, of course, like you said, we weren't ever going to win forever. We weren't going to win every single match for all of time. It wasn't going to happen. Of course, when we're on a run, you say, okay, the next match we're going to win, the next match we're going to win. You go with the flow, of course. But at the same time, managers do lose games sometimes. And I just wonder, like you said there, will he learn not to rush players back? I mean, you say that as if Fergie never rushed a player back, as if Jose Mourinho never rushed a player back. Name me a manager, and I'll find you an incident where he rushed a player back and the player got injured. I've seen Zidane do it. He's just got the job back at Real Madrid. I'm not sure whether it's a fault of Ollie's, or we're saying, we used to be Mulder manager, so we're not going to give him the respect we give other managers. Because the truth is every manager rushes players back. He wouldn't have rushed Lingard back if he had other options. We were out of options, weren't we?
Yeah.
So I just wonder whether and it's the opposite way with Fergie. I'd say, for instance, when Fergie came out and dropped the whole team for a cup match, at the start of the match, the fans would go, oh God, what's he doing? He'd win the match, everyone would forget about it. Another manager drops half the team lose, and then they go, oh, well, that was you should never do that. You know what I mean? It's kind of your reputation leading the opinions rather than the actual results or the actual decisions. And I think that's a balance we need to find with Ollie.
I think a balance that he needs to find with himself as well, right? That every job, whatever you do, has its ups and downs, and it's about how, as you were saying earlier, it's how you react from the being down that shows the kind of man you are. This is the most important time of his United managerial career, and this international break, as much as we usually hate international breaks, I think it's come at a good time for everyone to be able to sit and recuperate and reevaluate a few things.
Yeah, and I mean, let's look at it through a bit of clarity as well. I mean, Ollie's not signed any players.
Mm-hmm.
None of this squad he has signed. Not one. So he's taken the same squad that Jose Mourinho had. Jose Mourinho, the most decorated manager of the last couple of decades. And what did Jose do with this squad? Not much, right? I mean, yeah, of course, he did some great things, some good things, but he never went on a run like this. If you just look at this season, Ollie's already won more points than him in far less games. So although we're trying to find a criticism of Ollie that he's lost a couple of games, I mean, when you look at it as a body of work, I mean, it's the best job that anyone could have done in this situation.
Yeah, and it's not just a matter of the amount of points that he's brought to the table. It's about the feeling that he gives all us fans, right? And about bringing the magic back, as we were just saying.
Exactly. I guess what I'm trying to say is that my support is 100% behind Ollie. I firmly believe he's got all the tools, all the knowledge, all the know-how to take us back to the top. All this nonsense about he was managing at Mulder or whatever you want to say, personally, I think it's absolute nonsense. And I believe that Ollie is just the perfect fit for us. I believe that he knows the club better than anyone. Well, not better than anyone. I think that, say, you got Giggsy, Neville and that bunch were almost too close to the club to have a clear view. Whereas Ollie is close enough to the club, but he's also, he's from Norway, he's had time away, so he's had a chance to look at it through sort of a clearer sort of vision, I think. When you're in something, sometimes it's hard to see the truth there. So I think Ollie's I think he's the perfect man for the job. I really do. I just don't see how he's not going to take us back to the top.
Yeah, I think you just touched on a really good point there that, when you're so close to something, sometimes you make decisions with your heart, not your head. And this is a job that you sort of need to trust both, right? But there's sometimes that when you are, as Giggsy and Gary Neville, Paul Scholes, all of them, they have over 2,000 appearances for the club combined. And I think that when you are that close to something, that you maybe don't look at the bigger picture and you just try and do what you feel is natural, and sometimes that isn't the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think so. And also you can have a sort of bias that you don't realise you have sometimes as well. I think you kind of feel like it's your club, so you sort of know more than others. Whereas I think sort of your foreign legends, Cantonars, your Evras, and your Ollies and your Berbers, they've got the love for the club, but they've also got sort of, they were an outsider before, so they understand what the club looks from the outside, I guess.
Yeah, it's not all they've ever known as the Salford boys.
Exactly. But you know what? I mean, yeah, we're out the cup. That's done. Unfortunately, City have drawn Brighton in the semis. So we're really looking for Brighton to do one on them, and then Watford or Wolves in the final. What I would say about this, Scott, I know I've said this to you in the past. You know, we, as United fans, we don't want to see City winning titles and cups. We don't want to see Liverpool winning titles and cups. And of course, we want other teams to stop them. But as United, we've really got to be there to stop them ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We had the perfect opportunity here to stop City having any chance of winning the quadruple. It was totally in our hands, and we've handed it over to someone else now. And it's something that's got to stop. For the last few years, we've just been, it's a free-for-all. City, Liverpool, anyone who's interested, have the Premier League, have the FA Cup, we're nowhere near it. And now we're getting back up there. We've got to be in the way. We've got to be stopping City. We've got to be stopping Liverpool, taking these cups ourselves, because that's what United do. We're not passengers. We're not a passive club that watches other clubs go and take things. And that's the big disappointment for me. I love the FA Cup, but also we should have been there to stop City in the semis or the final.
Yeah, it's just a shame, isn't it? But you know, if you were to put a gun to my head and ask me what would you prefer to lose to Wolves in the quarterfinal, lose to City in the final, I would I prefer to lose to Wolves in the quarterfinal. So I'm going to take that bit of positive and run with it.
Yeah. And look, you know, we did have a little bit of good news at the weekend. We had Chelsea. I don't know how you described what they did to the bed up at Goodison Park, losing 2-0, a really, really shoddy performance, and they lose the chance to go above us as well, which was quite nice.
Yeah, I think that they just suffered what we've just suffered from, right? Is they have had this huge European result in midweek, and then sort of been brought back to earth with a huge shud.
They have
You
indeed.
said to me that one of the main factors for our performance at Arsenal and at Wolves was the fact that we celebrated too hard in Paris and just being emotionally drained. And I think it could be happening with them too.
Yeah, I think it's a complicated one because I'm all up for celebrating the big moments. I really am. But, you know, last 16 Champions League, there is a balance to be struck. And we are a young squad as well, I do understand. But I do think we went a little bit over the top in the time after Paris. And I do think, yeah, we had an adrenaline dump. That explained the Arsenal game. And then obviously the Arsenal game played with our minds a little bit by the looks of things. We kind of were like, well, we're not invincible after all. And, you know, when a team has gone on such a big run, when they do lose a game, quite often they lose another one or they draw another one because the aura's burst. So I do understand. We're experts in this, Scott, in terms of United fans. We've been on these long runs before. We've been in these situations. And it's not as easy as it looks from the outside. So I do understand it. It's just a shame that it cost us the FA Cup, really. But like I say, we're 2 points behind Arsenal. We're a point ahead of Chelsea going into the run, and we still got Chelsea to play. So it is all in our hands in terms of dealing with Chelsea. We just need to rely on Arsenal dropping a few points, which they will. So we're still well in the top four race. And we've got the Champions League to come too. What are you thinking? Are you still eyeing third? Only 3 points behind Spurs?
Of course, I think Spurs are still going to lose points. I think they got a huge draw in the Champions League, and maybe a few eyes will be on those days. And
They have.
forever optimist, me. You know me, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, they have got a big game.
Apart from after that game at Liverpool, but that's a different story, right?
It was the beginning and the end, mate, of that period in our club's history, to be fair. But you know what? You just touched on the Champions League draw. Obviously, that was an interesting event last week. Didn't quite go the way we wanted. We drew, obviously, Barcelona, 10th of April. They come to Old Trafford. And the 16th, we travel to the Nou Camp. Almost 20 years after lifting the European Cup in 1999, Ollie leads us back there. God, what a mouth-watering task ahead of us, Scott. Unbelievable.
I wasn't as disappointed as it sounded like you were. I was, if anything, relieved not to draw City or Liverpool. But I guess the euphoria of how we won in the last round, thinking that we weren't going to be in the hat. That a trip to the Nou Camp is always a fantastic day. Ollie's got some wonderful memories there, and I think he might be the man to inspire us to really upset the odds again there, mate.
Yeah, well, what I will say, I wasn't disappointed. I just said that it was the worst draw we could possibly get, which I think it is. Barring drawing an English team, we've basically drawn the strongest team left in it, in Barca. And then should we beat Barca, we then play Liverpool in the semi-final, Anfield second leg. Should we do that and beat Liverpool and get to the final, on the other side of the draw, we got City or Spurs, and then Juventus have obviously got our old boy Ronaldo, or Ajax, which I can't see getting through those three teams. So what I was saying is that, man, I'm well up for the game in the new camp. I'm well up for Barcelona. I think we can do it, absolutely. I was just saying that the raw facts, that if you were going to pick a route to win the Champions League, that was the hardest route we could have picked. That's all I was saying. I'm still well up for it. I still think we can win it, but it is a monstrous draw.
Yeah, I think the last couple of games have maybe showed that we are a bit more human than when the draw was announced. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I didn't want us to draw City or Liverpool, and I didn't particularly want us to draw Juventus as well. I think they're on a really good run at the moment. But I actually think we might have a decent chance against Barcelona, mate. I think that, similar to what we were saying last game against Paris, that they're not used to playing against a striker like Lukaku. I think that Barcelona themselves, they play in a league where 3, maybe 4 teams are pretty good and the rest are pretty poor. And we always seem to do well against big opposition in the Champions League, and I think that I think we could do all right.
I prefer us playing Barcelona than maybe an Ajax after the Arsenal and the Wolves games. Seeing how we've played in those games, I think we are good for the big occasion, and yeah, I'm happy with the Barcelona draw. I'm happy with the draw in general. You know me, I'm up for anything. But what I'm just saying the facts that it is the worst possible route. However, if we were to win it, beating Liverpool in the semis and City in the final and Barca in the quarters, it'd be the best thing ever. So you take it or leave it. It's up to you.
Wait, so are the semi-finals already? They're already announced. It doesn't go back into a hat.
Oh no! It's all sorted. We play.
Right.
We win. We play Liverpool or Porto, and we play Old Trafford first, and we play Anfield second leg, and then in the final we would be the away team. So the likelihood is we would wear red against City, Spurs, or Juve. If Ajax were to make it, we'd be wearing blue.
We just played Juventus and had to wear blue in Turin. So let's not get ahead of ourselves, though, mate. Come on.
I don't think we had to. I think we chose to, right? Because they wear white shorts.
I don't know with the Champions League, mate. Remember 20 years ago we had to wear white at home against Barcelona because of the rules.
I remember
we've had to wear blue at home against Olympiacos.
And we actually, in the Champions League, we had to wear white socks a lot, didn't we? And then we just chose to carry on. So I kind of quite like that old thing that we used to do, where we used to wear black socks in the Premier League at home, and then in Champions League we'd wear white. But obviously, this year's monstrosity of a kit has shredded everything, and everything's out the window.
Dog's dinner, yeah,
absolutely dog's dinner. We might as well wear blooming pink shorts with a red top. It is a dog's dinner, isn't it? Unbelievable.
It's funny actually. The pink kit has grown on me a lot over the season, and I think it was
helps we wore it in Paris, doesn't it?
It was in Paris that we were wearing those white shorts, and like, you know what, that actually doesn't look that bad now. And you reminded me that when we wore it the first time, was it Bournemouth? We wore pink shirt, white shorts. I thought it was absolutely ghastly.
No, it was it Burnley? I think it was Burnley.
You might be right.
It was Burnley, and you were like, that's a dog's dinner, it's horrible, what are we doing? And now you're saying it's all right. Every season, mate, every season you start off, oh, that's ghastly, I can't wear that. And then a couple of weeks later, and you're anyone's.
No, last year's black kit, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And to be honest, I really liked the blue kit this year until Juventus came out with exactly the same one a few weeks later, which I just found crazy.
Yeah, well, what I will say, keep an eye out on our Instagram at United100 Podcast, because we do have a few little cheeky leaks of next season's kits, information about what colour schemes there'll be, also some leaks on the patterns for the third kit, and maybe the away kit too. So keep an eye out for that. We'll keep you updated on the podcast as to when we release them.
What colour schemes are you hoping for next season, TC?
Well, I hope the home kit's going to go back to red, white, and black. That'd be a nice start.
Yeah,
obviously, it's what we've grown up with, right? red shirts, white shorts, black socks. In Europe, red, white, white. So for home, that's what I'd love. Personally, I would love us to just go white away and then black or blue. So white, black, and blue as our rotating colours for the away kits, red for the home. And if the Glazers want to finally grow a pair and give us a green and gold kit, then that'd be nice too.
Bit tasty, that, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, but I think what we're going to get from the stuff I've seen is the away kit is going to be beige. And the third kit is going to be black with orange and silver trim.
I love how you just threw that in. It's going to be beige. Yeah. Yeah, no reaction to that whatsoever. Yeah, away kit's going to be beige, and that's that. So anyway, next up, you're like, wait, what, beige?
What do you want me to say to it, Scott? I mean, every man and his dog knows it should just be white. There's no point in going beige.
I wasn't expecting you to say beige, mate.
well, someone's getting paid for it, and they probably gave a what, and they're like, oh, well, I've got a beige thing here, but yeah, so it's going to be beige, unfortunately, but beige, red and black. So
with some khaki brown shorts, lovely. Can't wait.
Who knows? But if Adidas do carry on, then we've got to start a campaign for them to stop it, because I know the Bayern Munich fans did it. I know the Barca fans did it when they got the hoops, and they said, we're not having this anymore. And if Adidas do it again next season, we're going to rally the troops and tell them they're not going to do it to our club either, because there's all very well having a laugh about it, yeah, and when we can, but there's a reason why we wear certain colours, and it's to do with our history and the journey the club has taken throughout the years. And just because we've got a new sponsor, I don't think we should be the guinea pig for trying different colour schemes and stuff out, personally.
Yeah, I think you got to say that. I think they're having a laugh with some of the things they put out. I look forward to the new training gear as much as I like the new kits, and they've released some right rubbish in the last couple of years with the training gear. Black on black, stuff without pockets. I mean, it's mental.
They have indeed. I have got a few leaks of the training gear for next season. I'll pop that up as well. I'll send you it after the podcast as well, Scott. I'm sure you'll be all over it.
What was that? United 100?
United 100 podcast. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Fantastic, buddy. So we are, unfortunately, the bad news, we're heading into an international week. So again, it's the worst timing possible. Lose a couple of games and then you have 2 weeks off. You get back in, and then there's potential for coming in with an international hangover and dropping more points. So we really need to come back and take on Watford after the international break with all guns blazing. We have actually not got so many Reds off on international duty. Remember the days, Scott, when we had half the England team, let alone the squad, coming from United?
Yeah. We used to sit there and worry that everyone was going to come back injured. And I'm not sure about, I know Martial and Luke Shaw have just withdrawn themselves from international duty.
They have, yeah. We've literally got Rashford carrying the flag for England on his own. Pogba carrying the flag for France on his own. As you said, Luke Shaw withdrew. Martial withdrew too. So that's very rare. One player in the England squad. And then we've got Bailly's off with the Ivory Coast. We got your man Scott McTominay up with Scotland. Matic vice-captaining Serbia. De Gea off with Spain. I can't see Kepa taking his place anytime soon, judging by his form for Chelsea. You never know with the Spaniards, though. Lukaku's obviously a doubt for Belgium.
But he's still there, right? He's still there and he's getting an MRI on his foot.
Absolutely. And the good news is that the skipper, Valencia, is gone off to Ecuador and might play some minutes for the first time in quite a while. So it'd be nice for him to get some minutes in. Obviously, we're kind of starting to move on from the Valencia time at United, but it would be nice for him to have some minutes before the end of the season, give him a proper send-off, because he has been a great servant to us.
Yeah. I've always had a good soft spot for Tony Valencia. I think he's been a great servant to the club, and every time I see him, I just see his little smiling face next to Fergie in the training ground picture when we first signed him. And he's been a great servant for our club. And there was a period, you got to say, before he broke his ankle, that he was world-class winger. The old curse of the number 7 hit him, unfortunately. But there was a time that he was absolutely world-class. I remember that season that Wayne Rooney scored 35 goals. He must have set 25 of them up.
He was superb leading up to the ankle injury. It was such a shame. I remember it happening. I was up in the top of the Stretty. I remember it happening down in that corner. And it was and then when he came back, it was just never the same. He wasn't turn back Tony back in the day as much as he was now. And he didn't want to attract that kind of tackle again. And it's kind of changed his whole style of play. which was
Yeah, I think he lost a couple of yards of pace, and especially the first yards, right? His
he
acceleration
did.
when we first got him was blistering.
He did, but he also lost Scholesy as well.
That's
And
true.
you know what I've always said about Scholesy was the man. He was like the winger's best friend. He would push them onto the ball. He'd play the ball just in the right place. So you'd have to go top speed to get there. It'd be in your stride when you got there, ready to cross it. Just what an amazing guy to be able to, almost orchestrate the players around him. So obviously Valencia, he broke his ankle when he came back. Scholesy was nowhere to be seen anymore. But he came in when obviously we lost Ronaldo. He suffered quite a lot of abuse from people in the stand. I know you've laughed at me many times throughout the years, Scott, for the man who stood in front of me at Old Trafford, and he used to slag off Valencia. It was every time he touched the ball, all I could hear was "he's crap, he's crap." And even when he did something good, he was like, "He's still crap." And it was like, I mean, what has he got to do?
Yeah, the old "I could do better" lot. Yeah.
It's mental. He's obviously given 100%. And that's what I don't like. Look, if a player's not giving his all, fill your boots, say what you want to him. I don't have a problem with that at all. But if someone's obviously giving their all, if someone's obviously pushing and pushing and pushing for our club, you don't slag them off from the stand when they're playing. It's just mental.
Yeah, and another thing you've got to remember is he was one of a very advanced right winger and managed to make that transition back to right wing back, right full back pretty seamlessly.
Yeah.
And become a really good defender for us in the later part of his career, right?
Yeah, and not just that. We needed someone, we needed people who had experience. Our team was shorn of the experienced guys who had won the titles with United and knew what it was like under Fergie. Valencia was one of the guys who carried that and passed on that knowledge to these guys. So it was very important at that time with Fergie going, obviously, players like that being able to pass the baton on to the new generation about what it is to be a Manchester United player.
Yeah, great servant. I hope these rumours of him going to Arsenal or Spurs aren't true, and he doesn't come back to haunt us.
Yeah, I'd much rather him go abroad. I always prefer our players, especially when they've had a long time with us, to go abroad. I'd much rather them be out of sight and out of mind, and I remember them for the good times at United rather than have to see them playing for Arsenal or Chelsea or God forbid, someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hope Tony continues his recovery and we see him before the end of the season. Keep your chins up, Reds. Let's get through this horrible international week. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, TC.
Thanks, Reds. We'll see you next week. Cheerio.
Ta-da.